Today we're at the shop and we're going to be working on the Corvette. We're going to be talking about some new parts for the Corvette and some new tools for the Cressida. Last time we were here, I was talking about how we got a brand new bumper for the Corvette, and hopefully sometime today we'll be able to install this and take off that trashed one. We'll talk about the rest of what we're going to be doing on this thing today after I talk about the new tool that we got in for the Cressida. I had talked about these in several previous videos and they just came in. These are Fialko clips. These are essentially temporary rivets, and I got those because we're going to be taking the fender flares on and off a bunch of times because they need a bunch of modifications done to them, and in the process, if we were to use actual rivets and take them on and off, it would just be a huge pain, and I also don't want to have to use some kind of bolt or anything like that. It's a very simple concept. Essentially, you just put that in there, and once it's in there and set in the hole, you just release it, and it actually is able to hold everything together, and it's almost like a temporary rivet because you can take this thing on and off as many times as you'd like, and it's not going to affect the hole that you drilled. And I'm pretty sure I got enough, so that way we can actually have all 4 fender flares on at the same time without having to reuse the same ones. Moving on, we're going to be working on this thing today, or at least the first part of this video. Main thing is I'm going to try and get this front all situated. I got to get the wrap off the headlight covers. We're going to pull this bumper off. We're going to get the excess wrap inside here and then possibly take off the fenders. That way we can take off all the excess wrap in that area. I also did take a Scotch-Brite pad to this a little bit just to see how it would work. I just got this red one here. I was told to get the gray just because it is a little bit softer, but you said that the red was going to do okay, and I figured I'd give it a little test where we already have to have some repairs done anyways, or it's going to have to be figured out there. I'm not really entirely sure. Anyways, I also picked up some fiberglass resin. It turns out I already have plenty here, but that's because we're going to be filling in these holes back here for where the wing used to be. There's 6 holes total, and we're going to be digging those things out, filling them with fiberglass, making it all smooth. And why I'm actually installing this right now. I think it's going to be a little bit of a mistake installing it right now because I am driving this thing still. I've been pretty much dailying this thing just because it has been a little bit nicer out. And the bottom is going to get scratched as I drive it just because the car is so low right now. However, I'm trying to paint this car very soon, and I'd like for all the pieces that are going to be on there to be on the car. That way we can start prepping everything together, and everything's just ready to go. I highly doubt anything's going to happen to that thing, and especially with it being so much more flexible. I mean, realistically, the only reason that this happened was because there was a previous repair there, and it just busted through the fiberglass because obviously this being soft and hitting the ground, and then the fiberglass that repaired it being a lot stiffer, it just broke whenever it would hit the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and pull all this stuff off of here, and then also the little front vanity plate thing where the front license plate is supposed to go. I was hoping that I could save this thing, and it looks like we'll still be able to. I'm going to pull the wrap off this thing and see how it is, and then I'll be able to reattach it to the new bumper. This thing is definitely going to have to be bodyworked at the very least. We may just end up getting a new one if we decide that it's just going to be too much work. I decided to only take off the little clips here that are needed to mount the bumper and the little clips here. The little bezel things for the projector headlights and then also the one turn signal. I'm going to leave that in this bumper for now because I'm going to have to order new ones of these. That one is broken in that little corner there, and I might as well just, I'd rather have none than just one. And then That one, I gotta see if I have the bracket for that, and then if not, I gotta order the bracket, and I'm gonna get the new turn signals, and that doesn't really need to be installed anyways, and then that way we're able to prep inside here for paint anyways. Before we mount this thing on the car, I wanna make sure I get inside here, get this excess wrap in here, and then we might also take off the fenders just because it is so easy, and that way we can get inside the door jamb and all that, and then also we're gonna take the wrap off the headlights. So I just now took off the headlight covers, and the reason I didn't take them off initially is just because it's easier to take the wrap off whenever it's actually fixed to something. That way I have some leverage on it, and now we can get to the back of this. You can see that they nicely folded it around all the way around here. That way there's no seams whenever the headlights are up or anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish these off. You can also see that they are in primer and pretty much ready to paint. I'd say they need to be scuffed up, obviously. The point is, pretty much everything is ready to paint besides the bumper as soon as I take off all the wrap and just Scotch-Brite it. Yesterday you saw that I was taking this thing apart, and I went ahead and took off all the wrap that was still left on the fenders. So now both fenders are completely clean, headlights are completely clean, this bumper obviously is clean. And also last night, I cleaned off all of the rest of the rockers except for the very bottom portion, and then a little bit on this door. That's just some stuff that I'm gonna have to get under there and get the rest of later. But I also did the door handles. I'm gonna have to actually take them out in order to get the rest that's inside there, but that'll happen later. I imagine I'll probably get the rest of this stuff before we paint it. I just don't wanna bother taking it all apart just to have to put it all back together, and just for that little bit of work when we're gonna have to take it all apart to prep and paint it anyways. You can see this door handle was done as well, and then also this rocker is much cleaner than the other side, but for the most part all the wrap is off of this car, and we're gonna start putting the front end back together. I'm gonna put the fenders back on, put the new bumper on, and then we can start moving on to some of the fiberglass work that I want to do today, like back here filling in these holes. These aren't the only holes that gotta be filled, but those are the most available, and I think I'm just gonna do those first. I'd say the Corvette is looking a little bit better than it did. Not by much with all the mismatched panels, but at least it looks like it's in the works and nothing's all too beat up, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, everything's all together. The bumper had a lot better fitment than I had imagined, just because of some of the, you know, just because it was so thin. I was worried about some of the other quality issues, but it actually fit up really good, and I'm pretty surprised. Maybe just because it's so flexible that it's able to flex into place. I'm not really sure, but it actually fits up pretty well, and actually pretty much just as good as the original bumper. I'm gonna pull this thing in backwards, that way we're able to start working on that rear end. I'm gonna start fiberglassing in those holes. As you can see, I finished off this side, and I did this side off camera. I did this side first while the battery was charging, but I just want to say that this is not 100% done yet. We are going to have to do some sort of primer. I just don't want to use the shitty can primer. I want to actually use some primer that I can get out of shop. I don't know if I'm going to spray it or if I'm going to try and get one that's in a can, but not the same one, not the like crappy Rust-Oleum one. I'm trying to get one that's actually pretty good and a nice high build one. But for the most part, these are pretty good. Nice filled in. That's just the 6 holes just for the wing, and then we also have all the holes that we had for the diffuser that I have to fill too, but I figured I'm not going to do those until we pull the bumper off, and that way you know, we can get all that stuff. But that's not going to happen until paint is at least somewhat like close. Right now we're probably at least a few weeks out before we really get some paint on this thing. We are going to be trying to build a pretty nice booth in here, spray booth, and we're going to have it with like filters and fans and try and get it so that it actually is pretty good, and that way it works out for not only this car but also the Bozo car. And we're just trying to get the best quality out of it, and a lot of the blemishes and stuff that we had while we were painting Frank's car was just because of lack of preparation and just the environment itself. And with kind of a homemade booth, it's just bound to happen. You're bound to have some blemishes in the paint due to dust and other stuff like that. I'm not real well-rounded on this stuff. I'm sure George can explain this a lot more in detail whenever he comes around and you know, tries to help me paint this thing. But anyways, guys, we're pretty much finishing up here today. We got a lot done in the past couple of days. We got the brand new bumper on, we got all the wrap off, pretty much took apart a lot of stuff. I found out a lot of new things that I'm gonna need, basically a lot of plastic brackets that have broken over time, and I'm gonna have to get some new ones, a new bracket for the headlight, a couple brackets for some other stuff, the turn signals, that duct things, I don't even know what they're called, but they're like fake ducts for in the mouth of the bumper or something. Anyways, pretty much this car is looking a hell of a lot better. I also, off camera, I took apart the door, I took off the door card and everything, and I got all the way around the mirror in this thing. There's no more wrap on this mirror, and then there's no more wrap around this door handle. We still have yet to do the other side. I just couldn't get to it because I purposefully moved it as far this way as possible so I could open this door. Anyways, guys, I'm pretty much finished up here today, and I'm gonna be finishing up the video now. So hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out.